boy. Welcome, everyone. Familiar faces, returning faces, beloved faces, family faces. Thank you, family, for being here and joining my spiritual family here. We also have some friends, two ministerial classmates, Reverend Jackie Hawkins and Reverend Leslie Miller, with us today. So are we blessed or what? Yes. And so we begin our official journey as a spiritual community in the light of the light, and as the light of God expressing as more love, peace, hope, joy, and abundance. And for 40 years, this Carlsbad community has been a beacon of light in Carlsbad. So I am honored to join you to serve, to love, to grow together, to learn as a prayerful, spirit-led, and fun-loving community. Are you with me?
Yes.
All right. So I would like to acknowledge the leadership team that has worked diligently behind the scenes throughout this transition to make this day happen. So Reverend Kathy and the board, can you please stand so we may acknowledge you? Let's give them a hand. Thank you. So Advent, what a perfect time to begin, right? How many of you have participated in Advent in some form in the past? Quite a few. Well, you know that it means a time of beginning or a joyful expectation for the arrival of a special or notable event, thing, or person. And in the Christian tradition, Advent refers to the 4 Sundays before Christmas and is seen as a time of spiritual preparation to celebrate the birth of Jesus. And in unity, we see it as a time of preparation to birth the Christ within, our own Christ nature, which is our spiritual nature, our true nature. So I invite you these next 4 weeks to let this be a time of knowing your spiritual nature more, to spend time in meditation, prayer, daily contemplation with your spiritual nature, to bless it, to nurture it, and even to listen to it. We can even ask it, or ask ourselves, what qualities of my spiritual nature are calling to be reborn? There are always new dimensions unfolding in our spiritual nature. And we'll be looking at 4 of these qualities through Advent: faith, peace, love, and joy. But there are many more aspects we have, right? We've been talking about generosity last month, but you also have so many more: strength, wisdom, imagination, understanding, to name a few. So I invite you to give that gift to yourself this Advent season. And these booklets also are available that are a nice daily for your daily practice to focus on these spiritual qualities. So make sure you get one of these. And what I love about doing Advent in community is that we join millions around the world in this collective consciousness of tuning in to love, to greater peace, to greater joy. And there's an amplification of awareness and expression and intention to see the good and be the good. Have you noticed that already this season? That there's more of a kindness in the air, a softness. And we know what we look for, we will see signs of. So this time of year is often called the season of lights, with Christmas, Hanukkah, winter solstice, Kwanzaa. And light is that ancient symbol that symbolizes hope, perseverance, triumph over darkness. And when I think of our prayers going out, I get this vision. Have you seen the sky lanterns that are lit in ceremonies around the world, and people send them up with prayers, with hopes for good, for wishes. And the Christmas story is filled with scenes of light, with the wise men following the star, a dazzling light over the manger, the sky lit up when the angels greet the shepherds. And whether you believe the events of the Christmas story are true or not, literally, there's a richness here for us that reveals a universal truth of divinity born in humanity. Not just in one person over 2,000 years ago, but in every person, divinity born in humanity, in you, in you, in you, in you, in me, in all of us, in every person, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And our hope is that all will awaken to that divinity within. And the world will be more connected, more loving, more caring for all. And so we step into the light of faith. And I'm going to ask Kathy to come up and light the candle for hope and faith today. Thank you, Kathy. So we are in a flameless facility, so we get to use our power of imagination right here, right? So a wise person once said that hope to the human soul is what oxygen is to the human body. So we all need hope, don't we? It gets us up in the morning. It keeps us connected. It keeps us moving in the direction of our dreams. But hope is a little different than faith. Hope gets us started, but faith takes us the rest of the way. So what is faith? We may have used that word in referring to a strong belief or trust in someone or something, or a belief in God. But today we're looking at spiritual faith that goes a little deeper than belief. And with spiritual faith, it's a knowing that we live in a friendly universe. And the God of our understanding, whatever you and however you relate to that great mystery that some call universe, creator, source, spirit, ground of being, whatever that is to you, that is a force for good for us, that His will for us is good. It's a deep inner knowing that the good we desire is already here in the formless realm and on the way to form. So the book of Hebrews has a definition for us. That faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. And I like the rest of the definition too. By faith we understand that the worlds were prepared by the word of God, so that what is seen was made from things that are not visible. In other words, with this kind of faith, we're confident that our hopes will be fulfilled, even if we can't yet see how that will happen. And by the way, the joyful noise back there is my little grandson. Hi, Andrew. So sometimes our ability to reason can argue with our faith, right? It can give us all the reasons why that won't happen, and those reasons might sound pretty logical to the intellect. So sometimes faith calls us to suspend reason and activate imagination. So faith and imagination work together. And this is not about ignoring what's going on in the world or in our lives, but choosing to see it from a higher perspective, and then acting from that level of consciousness. And what difference that makes. So with faith, we know that all that is created first in the invisible realm before it moves into the visible realm of form. All the good that you have created in your life right now, where did it start? As an idea, right? An idea somewhere before it came into form. Everything in this room, the chair you're sitting on, the altar, the mic, everything was first an idea in the invisible realm. And with someone's faith and persistence and imagination and diligence, it came into form. So it may come as no surprise that faith is related to the spiritual law of mind action, which states that what we think about continuously with feeling has co-creative power. You may have heard the saying, thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Have you heard that? Meaning that what we focus on continuously and putting great emotion into it, positive or negative, we will draw to us experiences or be drawn to experiences of that flavor. Have you noticed that happen in your life? Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, had a lot to say about faith. He called it the perceiving power of mind linked to the power to shape substance. It's a spiritual assurance, the power to do the seemingly impossible. He also called it a magnetic power that draws unto us our heart's desire from the invisible spiritual substance to the visible realm. So substance, that's that activity of God that lies behind every form. And so with our faith faculty, we hold space for the knitting together of that substance to shape the form, the job, the healing, the abundance, the relationship, the right outworking of a situation. And keep in mind that we did not invent faith. We did not give it to ourselves, and we can't lose it or throw it away. And we already have all the faith we need. Did you know that? You already have all the faith you need. It's a divine gift that we were born with. Though we do control the amount of attention we give it, our willingness to exercise it, and our choice of where to direct it. Do we direct it to the possible? Well, one man chose to go beyond what anyone thought was possible. His name was Charles Blondin, and he was a famous funambulist. Not a fun word. It means a tightrope walker. And he became famous for being the first man to walk on a tightrope across Niagara Falls. And that tightrope stretched a quarter of a mile, 160 feet above the raging waters. And this was 1859, so there was no OSHA, there was no... He worked without a harness or safety net of any kind. So the crowds gathered, over 25,000 people, the week he made his debut. And they watched him walk across the skinny rope and back. And they watched him as he walked on stilts. And then he walked, one time carrying a chair and a small stove, and he stopped halfway, cooked himself an omelet, and ate it. Another time he walked across that quarter of a mile on that little rope, blindfolded. And this is the picture of him carrying his manager piggyback across. On another occasion, he wheeled a wheelbarrow full of cement, 350 pounds of cement across. And then he asked the crowd, and the crowd went wild with every stunt he did. And then he asked the crowd, "Do you think I can push a man in a wheelbarrow across?" And they cheered, "Yeah, yes, yes." So he went up to the man who was cheering the loudest, and he said, "Sir, do you believe that I can carry you safely across?" And the man said, "Oh, sure, of course." He turned to him and he said, "Get in." Get in the wheelbarrow. Would you get in? Well, the man refused, and no one else volunteered. But the crowd said they believed, but their actions proved otherwise, right? Sometimes life happens, and faith asks us to get in. Get in and trust with our whole hearts that we will be brought through the other side of this experience. Have you see some heads nodding? Have you had that happen? Yeah, you don't want to get in, right? You're placed in that wheelbarrow. So it's easy to have faith with the little things, right? That God is at work within us and in our lives for the right outworking, moving us toward greater good. But when we are called to step into faith with the big things, to put our feet on that wire and walk over the chasm of our fears, that is something else entirely, isn't it? But we know when those big things happen, and we do make it back to the other side, where our faith is tested, this is also where our faith grows. Jesus told us that we would only need a tiny bit of faith, a speck, the size of a mustard seed. And we build our faith each time we let go and surrender and trust that we will be lifted and carried through any experience. Helen Keller, who did amazing things in her life, she was born deaf, blind, and mute, once said, "Some people look at my life and see the darkness, but I have within my soul a searchlight called faith that allows me to walk through any difficulty." So faith is that lamp in the darkness. It's that pilot light, that flame that never goes out. Though sometimes we can feel like it has gone out, or we can barely see it. And that's the time we reach out for support. And there are definitely times when we may need extra support as well. And in those times we can borrow another's faith. Especially in times of loss. And I want to mention that the holidays can be a rough time for a lot of people, especially if we're missing someone that we love who is no longer here physically. So if you are finding that you need or are wanting some extra support this holiday season, please reach out to your Unity family. Silent Unity is also, the prayer line is also available to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I believe that number is in your program. And by the same token, if you know someone who is struggling, reach out. Offer your strength, offer your hope, offer a hand. So whatever challenges arise, we can choose to direct our faith on blessings we've already received and blessings on the way. I'll never forget this woman I saw interviewed on the news. I'll call her Grace. She had lost her job in her apartment. And she and her 3 teenage boys were living in a temporary shelter. And each morning she walked those boys to the bus stop, and they held hands and prayed. And I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't see it on the news as a true story, because 3 teenage boys holding hands with their mom praying at the bus stop. But they prayed every day. And she gave thanks for their family, that they had a roof over their heads, that they had clothes, that they had each other, they had their help. She gave thanks in advance for a job and her apartment and continued blessings. So that was wonderful enough, seeing that. But then, you know what she also prayed for? She prayed for those less fortunate than herself. And at the end of the day, she would have the boys tell her each one thing they were grateful for that day. And then they would all cheer, "Yay, God!" So she chose to place her faith not in any outer circumstance, but in that inner assurance that God was active in her life, that she and her boys were blessed, and more blessings were on the way. So that's how we build our spiritual faith, by giving thanks for that divine activity in our lives and focusing on what's right, what's working, and what's possible. And that's what I look forward to doing here in this community with all of you. To build that kind of faith that Gandhi spoke of, that faith is nothing but a living, wide-awake consciousness of God within. So in closing, what are your hopes for this Christmas season? Which of your spiritual qualities would you like to call forth to nurture and grow? So this week, as we light our candles and string our lights and outer preparations, may we also attend to our inner light and the divine spark of new possibility. Thank you.